Chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bore Yaakov no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said unto Yaakov, Give me children, or else I die. And Yaakov's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from you the fruit of your womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, that she may bear upon my knees, and I also may be builded up through her. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Yaakov went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived, and bore Yaakov a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, conceived again, and bore Yaakov a second son. And Rachel said, With mighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left off bearing, she took Zilpah, her handmaid, and gave her to Yaakov to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Yaakov a son. And Leah said, Fortune is come, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Yaakov a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother, Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray you, of your son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband, and wouldest you take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore shall he lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. And Yaakov came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You must come in unto me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bore Yaakov a fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I gave my handmaid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bore a sixth son to Yaakov. And Leah said, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, The Lord add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Yaakov said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I've served you, and let me go, for you knowest my service wherewith I have served you. And Laban said unto him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, I have observed the signs, and the Lord hath blessed me for your sakes. And he said, Appoint me your wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, You knowest how I have served you, and how your cattle have fared with me. For it was little which you had before I came, and it hath increased abundantly. And the Lord hath blessed you, whithersoever I turned. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? And he said, What shall I give you? And Yaakov said, You shall not give me aught. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. I will pass through all your flock today, removing from you every speckled and spotted one, every dark one among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. Of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness witness against me hereafter. When you shall come to look over my hire that is before you, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and dark among the sheep, that if found with me shall be counted stolen. And Laban said, Behold, would it might be according to your word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of fresh poplar of the almond and of the plane tree, and peeled white streaks in them, making the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled over against the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived at the sight of the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaks speckled and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs. He also set the faces of the flocks toward the streaked, and all the dark in the flock of Laban, and put his own droves apart, and he put them unto Laban's flocks. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger of the flock did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flock were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had large flocks, and maidservants, and men servants, and camels, and asses. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. Today we are continuing in the story of Jacob, on yesterday's last chapter. He had went on his journey from his father's house off into the east, and there he had encountered the flocks at the well. Rachel had found him there, and Laban, and he had went to their house, and he had stayed there quite a while. He had stayed there long enough to serve 7 years for Leah, and 7 years also for Rachel, or Rachel, his other wife. Jacob served for Rachel, not realizing that he would have to serve again to get that one. It not being necessary, a man should serve for a wife anyway. We'll find out. Anyway, Leah would have children, and she would conceive and bear Jacob, his first 4 children, or his first 4 sons that would come forth from him. That would Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Now we're going to pick up here in chapter 30, with verse 1, with Rachel. And we have the story of these 2 sisters that have kind of been envious, one trying to outdo the other in having children, or bringing forth these children. And we can relate this in a more spiritual context, and we will do better to get a little more understanding out of it. Let's start in verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children. It wasn't, I'm sure, for the lack of trying. Rachel, that lost you, that lost you, that's gone astray. She seen that she didn't bear Jacob no children, and she wasn't bringing forth any children. In that aspect, to have that ability to bring forth, to bear, or and it's similar to being able to divide oneself in a sense, to have these children. But Rachel envied her sister, and this envy that was within her, she was jealous of her. And she said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from you the fruit of your womb? And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. Because she acted like it was his fault. But we'll find out. The Lord's always controlling things here. And we're going to find out, and Jacob knew that. in his understanding that God controls everything. And he wants to know, is he God? Am I in God's stead? Or can you put me in God's stead that I can open up your womb? God does these things. He has withheld from you this fruit that comes from the womb. 3. And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, that she may bear upon my knees, and I also may be builded up through her. And she said, first of all, it was a violation of the law to do this in the beginning, but when she does it, to do it by permission, would change everything, because she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah. She said, my maid Bilhah is here. And Bilhah means to be troubled, to be timid or troubled, and we'll find out she becomes also a wife to Yaakov, and that's going to be a reflection of his understanding. And he went in unto her. 5. Bilhah conceived and bore Yaakov a son. Bilhah, this troubled one, the shy one, conceives, and she bears a son, one that would come forth to carry on the sham of Yaakov, the supplanter. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And we'll find out, Rachel says, God hath judged me. And that's what Dan or Dan means. It means to be judged, the judged. And that's why she called his name the judge. She said, God has heard my voice. God has listened to me, and we'll find out. She give this son that would represent the judgment over to our Bilhah. 7. And Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, conceived again and bore Yaakov a second son. And Bilhah, that's the troubled of Rachel's handmaid, that one who does the pleasant work for her, this lost ewe, conceived again, and she bore Yaakov a second son. Anytime we have a second is again. Again, she did it, bore a son again. We can witness this. 8, and Rachel said, With almighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. And Rachel said, With mighty wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister. Sister are two that have the understanding of their father, and they do have wrestled. And she called his name Naphtali, and Naphtali means to wrestle, or twist, we could say, for strength. We'll find out these were the sons of Bilhah. Both of them, both the ones that are judged and these ones that wrestle. 9. And when Leah saw that she had left off bearing, she took Zilpah, her handmaid, and gave her to Yaakov to wife. So when Leah saw, Leah's the weary, she saw that she had left off bearing, and she wasn't having no more children. She took Zilpah, that's her handmaid. Zilpah is that trickle, that trickling in, or that trickling of. She's going to do the pleasant work of Leah, the weary, and she give her to Yaakov to be his wife as well, and that's another reflection of his understanding. And we'll find out he had 4 wives. 10. And Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Yaakov a son. And Leah said, Fortune is come, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, that was, bore Leah a son. And she says, Fortune is come. Fortune is in the sense that she's having many, because Gad, she called his name Gad, and Gad means a troop, or that which overtakes, because we'll find out there seems to be some kind of race between these two sisters, one to have more than the other. And there's a lot to learn from this story. Jealousy. Jealousy is the main thing we see here, and one reason a man should never have more than one wife. 13. And Leah said at 12, and Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, bore Yaakov a second son. So dwelt Zilpah. Now this is the one that's trickling in. She's got a handmaid as well. This one is going to do her pleasant work, and she has bore Yaakov, the supplanter, a second son. Once again, to do it again, to repeat it again, she would bear Leah a son. 13. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy. And she called his name Asher. And Leah, the weary one, said, Happy am I am happy now. Happy here is being a state of right, to be correct. For the daughters will call me happy, and the daughters will call me righteous or correct, and she, or to be straight. And she called his name Asher, or Ashar. Ashar is like progress, to go forward, to move straight ahead. Happy, because one that moves straight ahead is going to be happy. 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray you, of your son's mandrakes. And Reuben, and he's in the fields working. Reuben is this one who seen the sun. Reuben has seen the sun, means to see the sun. And he went in the firstborn. He was the firstborn of Yaakov. And in the days of wheat harvest, this is going to be when they bring it in the wheat, he found these mandrakes in the field. A mandrake is a plant that has a root that's shaped similar to a human or a person. In figuratively, the way the root looks, it is looks like the body of a man or a person. And it was believed to have properties of love, properties of love that attract it. But the truth is, it's a poison. But he brings it to his mother, Leah, and they used it as a pharmaceutical in those days. Not recommended for today. We have progressed from there a little bit, you might say. But Leah, the weary, he brings it to her, and then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray you, of your son's mandrakes. So she wants some of her mandrakes, and we find out that's coveting. You're not supposed to covet. But we find out the story is full of that. And anytime there's that going on, we'll find out there's just simply going to be a price to pay for that. That's going to be the reaction for these actions. 15, and she said unto her, It is a small matter that you have taken away my husband, and wouldest you take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes. And she says unto her, because she wanted some of her, it's a small matter, we'll find out this jealousy's boiling up. Because that's what happens when a man takes more than one wife. He's going to cause this. But we'll find out. The Lord's behind everything. And like I said, there's always a little price you have to pay for error. And that's what Yaakov's doing. He's paying for that, what he's done. He wanted that role. We'll find out. He went forth with a little to no understanding. In the end, that's what we find out. He had to be taught. He had to learn the hard way. But, back to the story. Rachel said, Therefore shall he lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes, because they believed there was something to these mandrakes. 16. And Yaakov came from the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You must come in unto me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. So Yaakov comes in from the field. It's abroad. He's been out working all day. He comes in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, said. And she couldn't wait because she had these mandrakes that her son had found. That's that one that come forth from her. We'll find out the father, in the end, he puts down the law. And mother, she enforces it, but we'll find out, and she kind of twists it a little bit to make it pleasurable. And a lot of times that's where confusion enters in. 17, and God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bore Yaakov a fifth son. And God listened unto Leah, because obviously she had spoken to the Lord. If not, he had none to listen to her for. And she conceived. She bore again this fifth son. Fifth is a portion. Fifth is a portion, or a one in line. It's the fifth. That's going to be for grace. This one is going to go for 18. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I gave my handmaid to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. So Leah, this weary one, says, God has given me my hire, or paid me, repaid me, because I gave my handmaid to my husband. This one who does her pleasant work, she had given to be a wife unto Yaakov, and this was going to be her wages for it, or her pay, and she called his name Issachar. Issachar is the name is that which it represent who he is, what he does, or that's what that name is, Issachar. It's this one who's going to carry a reward, to carry, or to keep, take it, move it forward. And 19, and Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Yaakov. And Leah conceived again. Once again, she bore a son. This one who would carry forth the Shem, the sixth son. That's the sixth one, or the portion of the sixth. That's going to be what I call the work of man, the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath in 20. God hath endowed me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And Leah said, the weary one once again, brought forth. She says, God hath endowed me with a good dowry. A dowry is something. It's like a gift. Many gifts, and we'll find out these many gifts she was talking about are her sons. And she's going to call the name, or the Shem of this son, Zebulun. Zebulun means to habitate, or to house, to house, to dwell in. 21. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and she called her name Dinah, or Dinah. And afterwards she would bring forth a daughter. And that's one who's going to have a feminine understanding, or and her name's going to be Dinah. That's going to be her Shem, and that's going to be Justice. 22. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And God remembered Rachel. Did he forget Rachel? No. He never did forget Rachel, but what this means is God now would return to Rachel and hearken to her, listen to her, and open her womb. Now she will begin to bear. 23, and she conceived and bore a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. Now she conceives, and to conceive is to be with a child. A child is one that's going to come forth. I explained this many times, and the son that's going to come forth to carry on the Shem. That's the Shem is the presence of the name. God, she says, God has taken away my reproach. 24, and she called his name Yosef. saying, The Lord, add to me another son. And that's what Yosef means, to add to in the sense of like a gift. 25, and it came to pass, and we're going to see that Yosef will be the one who adds two. From him will come 2 tribes. 25, and it came to pass when Rachel had borne Yosef that Yaakov said unto Laban, Send me away that I might go unto mine own house, mine own place, and to my country. And it came to pass, it was around this time, in that after quite a few years, we'll find out, when Rachel had borne Yosef, that one it's going to add to, that Yaakov said to unto Laban. The supplanter would say unto the one who made white, or the white, that's the purity, or the one that's in that position, we should say. Send me away, that I may go into my own place, into my country. He's wanting to go live on his own. 26. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you. Let me go, for you knowest my service wherewith I have served you. And he says, give me my wives, these ones of these reflections of my understandings, whom I have served you, these that he had worked for, served for, and let me go, for you knowest my service wherewith I've served you, because you know how I've worked for these understandings. 27. And Laban said unto him, If now I have found favor in your eyes, I have observed the signs, and the Lord hath blessed me for your sake. And Laban says unto him, that's that one who's made white, or the one that's white, If now I have found favor in your eyes, if that's acceptable, I have observed the signs, I've seen these things, and the Lord hath blessed me for your sake. And because of you, the Lord's blessed me. 28, and he said, Appoint me your wages, and I will give it. And Laban says, Appoint me your wages. Now tell me what I have to pay, and I'll give it. 29, and he said unto him, You knowest how I have served you, and how your cattle have fared with me. And Yaakov would reply to Laban, You know how I've served you, I've worked for you, and your cattle, your herds, your flocks have fared well, have fared with me. They've done well. They've multiplied. 30. For it was little which you had before I came, and it hath increased abundantly, and the Lord hath blessed you whithersoever I turn. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? And he wants to know, he tells him, now you didn't have much when I came, and it's increased a lot because the Lord blessed you wherever I turned and whatsoever I did. And this turned in every way that he went, the Lord blessed Laban. And now, when shall I provide for my own house also? And he wants to know when he's going to be able to provide for his own house. 31. And he said, What shall I give you? And Yaakov said, You shall not give me aught. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed your flock and keep it. And he said, What shall I give you? So Laban, the one white, wants to know what he can give to the supplanter. You shall not give me anything, Jacob says. If you will do this thing, and we're going to find out, he's going to tell him what of his flocks that he will take. He says, I will again feed your flock and keep it. Now again, he would serve him a period of time for these herds. 32, I will pass through all your flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted one, and every dark one among the sheep, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats. Of such shall be my hire. And Yaakov tells him, the supplanter, no, I'm going to go through your flocks today, and even in this understanding, and I'm going to remove from every speckled and spotted one, every dark one among the sheep. This is going to be all those that are speckled and spotted. We'll find out they're mottled in color, and their appearance, the way they appear to be, is speckled or spotted, not white. They're not black either. We'll find out. They are mingled. And every dark one among the sheep, and these dark ones that are among the sheep would be these dark-colored ones, and the spotted speckled among the goats. The goat are the of a lesser cattle. The sheep are those that are easily led. The goat are basically the one who is like a substitute, we might say, for the sheep. 33. So shall my righteousness witness against me hereafter, when you shall come to look over my hire that is before you, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and dark among the sheep, that if found with me, shall be counted stolen. So Yaakov tells Laban now, and this is going to be my wages, and so shall my righteousness witness against me hereafter. My righteousness, my correctness, because we're going to find out Yaakov has become weary with Laban serving him, and we're going to find out he's got a plan on his own. When you shall come to look on my hire that is before you, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, all these ones will find out that are not mottled in color, and the dark among the sheep, all these ones that are mottled will be mine, is basically what he's saying. And all the ones that aren't, if you find them with me, they'll be counted stolen. And that would be that he would have to return now all those ones. And Laban said, behold, what it might be according to your word. And Laban said, now let it be just like that. 35. And he removed that day the he-goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and he gave them into the hands of his sons. And he's going to go through there and separate out that which is his. That's the streaked and spotted, the mottled, all the he-goats. That's those ones that exalt themselves over the flock, that model in appearance. And all the she-goats, that's those ones that are going to add to the flock, those that will take the place of the sheep. They were speckled and spotted, all those that belonged to him, every one that had white in it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. So he's going to transfer them over into the works of his sons, all these ones that are modeled in appearance, and the ones that are dark ones that among the sheep. The dark is always to be dark is to not show the light, or to not have the understanding. 36. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Yaakov fed the rest of Laban's flocks. So he sets 3 days, 3-day journey. 3. That's something that's twisted up there, a little bit of strength, something that will complete the witness in these understandings. There's going to be a journey between himself and Yaakov. Jacob, it's going to be between their flocks, is basically what it's saying here. The flocks of Jacob and the flocks of Laban. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. So Jacob's got his flocks over there. They're being tended by his sons, all these model ones in appearance. His sons are those that go forth with his Shem. And he's going to take care of the rest of Laban's flocks. One is made white. 37. And Yaakov took him rods of fresh poplar, and of the almond, and of the plane tree, and peeled white streaks in them, making the white appear which was in the rods. And Yaakov took rods of fresh poplar. We're going to find out, and it really doesn't matter that much, but these are going to be, these rods is like a staff. It's a branch. It's a limb. It's a young tree even, which could make a rod from. It's going to be a stick. And these rods, what they do is we're going to use them, and we're going to use the to represent a rule or an order that's going to be set before, because that's exactly what it is. And he's going to take, these are fresh poplar, not a poplar tree. It wasn't an almond tree either. It was going to be these wild fruit-bearing tree, a wild nut tree of some kind, most likely of a fig, a wild fig tree. It's got a smooth bark, kind of like our sycamore trees are. And these grow in the plain or just out in the field. And he peels white streaks in them, making the white appear, which was in the rods. So he peels these white stripes down into the rod. The white is that of purity. And these are just these streaks of purity which was in these rods, or these. Anytime you got a streak, it's like something coming forth and to appear, like the light shining in. 38. And he set the rods which he had peeled over against the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. And he sets these rods, these ones he's peeled these white stripes in, these that to make them to appear in contrasting, to appear contrasting. And he peels and he puts them in the gutters and the watering troughs where the flocks came. That's what these gutters are. The gutters where they would come, gather together to drink the water, and that's get their understanding from these troughs where the flocks came to drink. Or to get their understanding. The flocks are always, those are tended. Tended over sometimes by those that are higher. And they would conceive when they came to drink. And they would, when they came to drink and got together, they will find out, they would be bred, and these flocks would conceive. 39, and the flocks conceived in the sight of the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And the flocks conceived in the sight of these rods, and within the appearance of them, and the flocks brought forth these streaked, speckled, and spotted. And we'll see that the flocks brought forth according to the rods which he had peeled, and made them mottled as the rod was. 40. And Yaakov separated the lambs. He also set the faces of the flocks toward the streaked, and all the dark in the flock of Laban. And he put his own droves apart, and put them not unto Laban's flocks. And Yaakov separated the lambs, those that were born. He also set the faces of the flocks toward the streaked, and that's all of them, and all the dark in the flock of Laban. And he separated them. According to that, he put the dark ones, to the flock of Laban, all those that were of one color, and he put his own, the speckled, the mottled, in his own droves apart, and he kept them separate, because we'll remember, if any of Laban's are found there, it would be counted stolen. 41. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger of the flock did conceive, that Yaakov laid the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. And it came to pass, so as across time, whenever these ones of the herd would conceive in the flock, Jacob would lay these rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. So, in order to prosper himself, he would lay these rods in there, so that the would conceive in the sight, or within these rods, have these rods in their sight, and they would conceive and bring forth that which was speckled and spotted, and increase his flock. He was increasing his flocks, and he was separating, keeping them separate. 42. But when the flock were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Yaakov's. But he made a difference. He made a little bit of a difference, see. And when the feeble ones come in, these ones that were sickly, not doing too good, he didn't put them in. He didn't try to take from there. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Yaakov's. He was no longer helping Laban. He had started to help himself, And we're going to find out that Laban's going to probably get what's coming to him. Laban is the white, or this one is going to be made white. 43. And the man increased exceedingly, and had large flocks, maidservants and men servants, and camels and asses. And the man increased exceedingly. Of course, he was over all of it. He was in charge of the investment. He was controlling it. And we'll find out he was benefiting himself more than he was benefiting Laban. And he increased. He had large flocks, maidservants and men servants, and camels and asses. And maidservants, those ones that did his pleasant work. Large flocks are those that what you watch over and tended. And these men servants are always going to be those that do the masculine work, or that serve him in a masculine sense. Camels, that's those that carry the merchandises. And asses. Ass is something that carries your burden as well, often associated with a little bit of lowliness, often associated with carrying that which a ruler would ride on as well. Overall context, I think what we're getting here is these twistings in our understanding, and these to help strengthen them. When sometimes we get caught thinking we are following the right thing, when in the end we are not. We all have to have our own common sense. I'm going to reiterate that time and time again. The Lord gives you some understanding for yourself. When we try to take up other people's understandings, we often get confused in the following of it, because it doesn't belong to you. But we're going to move forward to Genesis 31. Turn and return.